we're joined now by Minnesota Democratic Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Margaret.
We have a lot to get to with you, but I want to pick up on where the Treasury Secretary just left off. He alleged that people who were tied to you or your campaign were involved in this broad, brazen scheme to rip off the Minnesota state welfare system. Do you want to respond to that? Do you know what he is referring to?
I really don't, and I don't think the secretary himself understands what he's referring to. We obviously had people who were able to donate to our campaign that were involved. We sent that money back a couple years ago. And actually, I was one of the first members of Congress to send a letter to the Secretary of Ag asking them to look into what I thought was a reprehensible fraud that was occurring within the program.
So this was, just for our audience, the Biden-era Justice Department called it the largest COVID fraud scheme in the country.
So wait a minute, I just got a question, just real quick. So if you knew more than a couple years ago that there was something fishy that was happening and going on in your district or wherever it is that you are or whatever, and you sent the money back, because usually politicians only send the money back when they discover something of a discrepancy or something wrong or something reprehensible, right? And they don't want to be tied to or associated with the person in a future conversation because they know that that person is going to get arrested. And I know that she said that she wrote whatever to let them know, hey, listen, this thing could be going bad or whatever, so on and so forth. So you know this person is doing dirty business. And you just let it slide, and you telling us that you wrote a letter and that's the end of the conversation. So you're familiar that these people are not doing what they're supposed to do, because I didn't catch this when I was listening to the Millionaire Morning Show or when I was having a conversation about this on the Millionaire Morning Show, but I'm catching it now, and it's all starting to make sense to me. So you sent the money back a couple years ago, because this would make more sense if she said that, because I know in a further conversation, I've seen a small clip of this, which made me interested in reacting to this in the first place, in which she then blames the FBI for the fraud, even though the FBI has to find out afterwards. But if you sent the money back years ago, that means that you are intimately familiar with the fact that these people, your Somali friends over in Minneapolis, who is committing some of the biggest welfare fraud that we've ever seen on record to the tune of billions, that means that you knew, inconclusively know that you knew that something was wrong, and you never really said anything. Let's finish.
And this was pocketing COVID-era welfare funds, more than $1 billion in taxpayer money that was stolen. It was pretty shocking. Of the 87 people charged, all but 8 are of Somali descent. And that has added to the spotlight being put specifically on your community. Why do you think this fraud was allowed to get so widespread?
Well, I want to say, this also has an impact on Somalis because we are also taxpayers in Minnesota. We also could have benefited from the program and the money that was stolen. And so it's been really frustrating for people to not acknowledge the fact that we're also, as Minnesotans, as taxpayers, really upset and angry about the fraud that has occurred.
So this could have helped y'all, but all Somalis overwhelmingly benefited from these billions of dollars that was being milked over years. Got it.
Mm-hmm. So do you think, though, that there was a failure by the Democratic state government to police itself? This is a brazen, fraudulent activity here.
Yeah, and that is what I alluded.
And we also have to remember that Trump wasn't in office when all of this was going on, all right? Let's just make sure that we understand that.
In my letter that I'd sent to the Secretary of Ag was to see where things were going wrong. How can this amount of money disappear fraudulently without there being alarms being set off? And it is something that, we have to continue to investigate. We have to continue to ask those questions.
Because, as you know, one of the initial defenses by the organization at the heart of the fraud, Feeding Our Future, was to claim the probe was due to racism. Do you think that this was all about negligence, or that it was like political fear of alienating the Somali community?
So you have to remember that the woman who led the program is a Caucasian woman. And that was her way of making sure that this would continue to happen by using whatever rhetoric that was available to her. We do know that when the money was stopped, they did sue. The AG, Attorney General Keith Ellison, defended the department in that lawsuit. It was a judge that said it should continue, that money should continue to go out. And so this wasn't something that people were not looking at. There was always those alarms, and we will continue to understand where things might have gone wrong as these investigations continue and as these fraudsters are prosecuted and sent to jail.
Well, it's going to have impact for your community, because we've already heard the head of Medicare and Medicaid say they're going to have a new policy that applies to Minnesota. You heard the Treasury Secretary say they're investigating. But there's another thread here, because House Republicans and the Treasury Secretary just now talked about a link to terrorism, a possible link. He said they're just now beginning to look into it. How confident are you that that's a false claim?
I'm pretty confident at the moment, because there are people who have been prosecuted and who have been sentenced. If there was a linkage in that the money that they had stolen going to terrorism, then that is a failure of the FBI and our court system.
It's always amazing to me how there's a lack of responsibility that is taken. And I never, ever, ever hear her say, yup, my people did something bad. Yup, the very people that I champion and the very people that benefit the most from the United States of America, as she says, some of the most horrible, ugly, evil thing about Americans and America. There's never, ever any accountability or responsibility whatsoever. She is only talking about it's everyone else's fault. It's the FBI's fault. It's this person's fault. It's that person's fault. There's never, ever any accountability whatsoever of why, how, who was participating. And now it's the FBI's fault that they didn't catch it, or the FBI's fault that they did it. And it's not anybody's fault that they know at all whatsoever that the fraud was being committed and taken advantage of by overwhelmingly 90-something% Somalians. Got it. Got it, got it, got it.
And not figuring that out. And
crazy.
Basically charging them with these charges. And so I do know that.
Imagine if Trump had never become president.
For many years, this sort of like alarm that there is money being transferred through the airport in bags and going to terrorism that accusation has always existed. There's never been here and there in those accusations. But if that is the case, if money from U.S. tax dollars is being sent to help with terrorism in Somalia, we want to know.
Yeah.
And we want those people prosecuted. And we want to make sure that that doesn't ever happen again.
So there are 80,000 people of Somali descent in your state, but the president has been very focused, not just on them, but on you. In this extraordinary cabinet meeting, he said Somalis, quote, come from hell. They complain and they do nothing but bitch. Take a listen.
These are people that do nothing but complain. They complain. And from where they came from, they got nothing. We don't want them in our country. Let them go back to where they came from and fix it. Thank you very much, everybody.
That knocking is vehement agreement from his cabinet members there. I just wonder what the reaction is in your district to have that from the highest office in the land.
It's disgusting. It's completely disgusting. These are Americans that he is calling garbage. And we feel like there is an unhealthy obsession that he has on the Somali community, and an unhealthy and creepy obsession that he has with me. I think it is also really important for us to remember that this kind of hateful rhetoric and this level of dehumanizing can lead to dangerous actions by people.
Listen, this woman is reprehensible. I'm still of the ilk that believes that nobody that is not born on American soil, and we need to completely abolish birthright citizenship just because you have a child on American soil. That was designated for African or American descendants of slaves. That was designated for slaves that wasn't asked to be here, and then they should have had citizenship once slavery was abolished. And that 14th Amendment that was established in 1865 and then later redone, I think that that is completely done, and there's no more slaves here in the United States of America, and that needs to be over. But at the same time, I don't even understand how we still justifying the fact that these people became whatever it is that they became, and to be ones that are public servants and then govern over us is wild to me. Let me know what y'all think inside of the comments. Make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description. Teach Hanley, 40% off your first order, 20% off for life. I love you. I appreciate you. I'm going to holler at you guys later. Peace.